Hi guys, so this is our first video lecture in American culture. I'm so sorry that this is all we can do right now. You know that I always rely on your feedback when I teach this class, how we discuss stuff, how we build a dialogue. So right now I think my lecture is going to be really meandering, going all the places. I'm so sorry for that. I try to make it as coherent as I can, but I can't promise anything. So, this week's topics is abundance. I presume and I hope that you read the chapter. Basically, what I want to do this week is to build on that chapter. Actually, one of my pet topics is connected to this chapter, and this is television. American television. I think a big part of American culture right now is television because we get all this content from the US right now. So today I really want to talk about how the American television industry works, how the television season works. Other than that, I will talk a little bit, elaborate a little bit on a couple of stuff that the chapter mentions, but I focus on television, which is something that the chapter doesn't really talk about that much. I mean, how the TV works beyond some money stuff and how many hours a person watches TV right now. I would talk about the technical stuff, when it starts, the different terms that we use. I will also upload a glossary about some terms regarding television. I won't talk most of those here. I just added them because I think that they are pretty interesting, and I hope that you'll enjoy this topic, by the way. So before I go to television, just a couple of stuff that I wanted to add to the chapter. So the chapter mentions the situation of journalism. I won't really talk about journalism here, but I'm going to upload a John Oliver video to the Facebook group where he talks about the situation of journalism right now. Why is it so hard for print journalism to survive today in the digital age, and how native advertisement works? Once again, native advertisement is basically an ad that looks like an article, but it's actually sponsored by somebody, and it's all about to sponsor a product and to get you to buy that product. The chapter mentions these four things about Americanness, this comfort, cleanliness. I have my notes and my laptop in front of me, that's why I'm looking down sometimes. Comfort, cleanliness, novelty, and convenience. And okay, I won't talk about the stuff that the chapter actually talks about, like how they marketed that air freshener to American people and stuff like that. But I want to elaborate a little bit on obesity, that the chapter connects to convenience and how Americans are so obese right now. Okay, so in reality, it's not just convenience. It's stuff like that in impoverished areas. You just can't buy healthy stuff. What they have are little convenience stores that sell not healthy stuff, that sells canned food, and they don't sell fresh fruit and stuff like that. And also this pre-made stuff, instant stuff, is much cheaper. So basically, poor people are predestined to obesity. And also, there's this psychological side of things that if you are poor and if you are not sure when your next meal is going to be, you are just going to eat as much as you can in one sitting because of the uncertainty of when you will be able to eat again and have food on the table again. So there is this psychological side of things as well, so that the convenience that they work long hours, they commute a lot, they don't have time to cook healthy foods. There is availability that they can't buy stuff because it's not in their vicinity, because it's too expensive, and there is the psychological side. So that's why I say that poor people are predestined to obesity. So there is this whole mass advertising and targeted advertising side of things. When we talk about mass advertising, basically what you have to think about is it started basically in the early 20th century. And always think about Times Square in New York, where everywhere you look, you have advertisements. And even today, if you just look online, look in newspaper, it's all mass advertisement. Also, even though when you go online and you research something, it's more likely that the sites that you are visiting are going to use targeted advertising, which is basically when they look at your browser history and recommend you stuff based on your browser history. For example, I've been looking at laptops a couple of weeks ago because my dad needs a new laptop, and after that I kept getting these ads. I still get these ads about laptops, even though they are advertising me laptops that are like 6 times my budget. So yeah, this happens. I say that personally I don't have a problem with targeted advertising, because at least I'm seeing stuff I'm interested in. I mean, targeted advertising is less annoying than when I just get random ads. Like some time ago, I got an ad for a cruise for gay men, and that's so I'm so not your target audience. And I get ads for Christian stuff when I'm pagan, so that's another thing. So yeah, targeted ads are actually not that bad, but be better at it. Please Google. I know that you're watching. There is infotainment, which is basically a mix between news and entertainment. I always say that when we are talking about infotainment, think about celebrity news that are news, but actually they have no news value. It's just what celebrities do, like what they wear when they go on the street. That's infotainment. Okay, basically this is what I wanted to add beyond television to this chapter. If you have any questions, please ask either in comments under this video, or I will be online at the time of the class when we are supposed to have the class. So I'm recording this video on Sunday afternoon, but I'm going to be online on Moodle chat or on Facebook at the time of our class, so Tuesday morning. Please come if you can, so we can have a discussion and a dialogue based on that. Okay, but here comes one of my favorite topics, television. So what do we know about American television? The chapter mentions the 4 big channels, CBS, NBC, and ABC. 2 other kind of big and kind of important channels today are Fox and the CW. Of course, let's not talk about the content of CW, and okay, they're basically young adult stuff, okay, most of the time. So how the whole season works. The actual television season starts around the 3rd week of September. Some channels start a little bit later. For example, Fox usually starts in early October, and the season lasts until about mid-May. During this time period, a full television season today consists about 22 to 24, maybe 25 episodes. That's a whole season. a couple of decades ago, it actually used to be a little bit more. So about 26, 27 episodes. And actually, the individual episodes used to be longer, because we are getting more and more advertisement time today. So for example, a sitcom, which is a about 20 minute long comedy episode. So today it's about 21 minutes. I've seen episodes that were actually under 20 minutes, which is kind of sad. But I've already mentioned in class that I love The Golden Girls, which is a series from the 80s, a sitcom series. And one episode of The Golden Girls actually used to be about 24 minutes. So we are actually losing more than 10% of runtime we have lost more than 10% of runtime since the 80s, which is kind of scary. So basically what happens here is that, of course, channels want to have more and more viewers, because more viewers means that they can sell the advertisement time to advertisers for a higher rate. But how this whole thing happens? Okay, so how does a show become a show? How does it start? Basically, producers do not know what the people want. It's all about throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. Of course, there are scripts that keep working. You have procedural shows. I mean, when you have detectives working cases, medical shows are a big deal usually. Soap opera like things, sitcoms. Even with sitcoms, you have these very usual scripts like The Family, the 20-something Friends, and stuff like that. So let's say that somebody has an idea for a show. They pitch that idea to a production company, to a network, a television network, and if the network likes the idea, they are going to order it to a pilot. A pilot is a first episode of a series which is basically made for the network to see whether they like the show or not. These pilots are usually shot around January to March, and then they are shown to the company. You might not get to see the original pilot of a series. Sometimes, even when a show gets accepted, they reshoot the pilot episode. They might recast some roles. For example, in the case of the Big Bang Theory, we have an unaired pilot with completely different sets, different female lead, different storyline. In that case, the network kind of liked the concept, but wasn't okay with how it was carried out, so they reshoot the whole thing. So if the series is ordered, so if the pilot is ordered to series, it's called to be ordered to series or to be picked up. At this point, the network usually orders 9 or 13 episodes of a series. In each May, just before the season ends, there is usually a so-called upfront. Each big channel has their own upfronts. This is an event when they announce the lineup, so what shows they are doing in the next fall. So they show the new shows, they show the new trailers for the new shows, who is going to be in it, when it is going to air. It's very important when something is going to air. For example, Friday night is a dead zone. If a show is moved to Friday night, it basically means that it's going to die. Thursday night, for example, you have this Thank God It's Thursday, which is the Shonda Rhimes block on ABC that brings in a huge amount of viewership. So if you put something on Thursday night, it's going to have to compete with the Shondaland shows. So Station 19, Grey's Anatomy, How to Get Away with Murder, and stuff like that. So you don't really want to do that. Thursday night is also usually sitcom night on NBC, I think. So there are usual time periods. My cat is sleeping there, so I'm just checking on her. So it really matters when a show is going to air. The upfront is actually not really for the wide audience, but to the advertisers, so they can see what they can invest in, what is going to happen, when to buy airtime for their advertisements, basically. Then the season starts in mid-late September, early October, and we start watching. We actually start watching how many people are watching a show. To see how many people are watching a show, we use the so-called Nielsen ratings. Nielsen ratings is basically a company that measures audience. They measure it in millions of how many households are actually watching that show, and measures the so-called shares. A share is what percentage of all households in America watch a given show. Scripted shows, so actual fictionalized stuff like series, they actually don't bring in that much. So even big names like Grey's Anatomy, which is somehow still a big name, they might bring in an audience above 10 million people, which means like 2.5, 2.6 share. And it's a good number. It's actually the share numbers move for scripted shows, they move in the 1 and 2 percentage area. What really brings in viewership are actually non-scripted shows or unscripted shows. Sports. The one stuff that really brings in the audience every single year with the highest viewership ever is the Super Bowl. They can bring in a share of above 30%. The Super Bowl is a big deal. And then you have talent shows, other sports broadcasts, so they are the ones that bring in the most people. And so the season goes on, and slowly we can see what people like, what people don't, and what happens with new shows, that many of them get cancelled right in the first season. Either they don't get a new order, they're not brought to a full season order. So as I said, usually the network usually orders like 9 episodes or 13 episodes, and then they see that it's not working out, so they are not going to order more episodes to bring up the episode count to 22 or 23. And then they cancel the show, X the show, and bring in something new in its place. Sometimes shows get cancelled in like after 1 episode or 2 episodes. Sometimes they even like shut the ordered 13 episodes and they don't get aired at all. It has happened. At this point, I want to give you a little bit of homework, kinda. I'm going to do this every week. This is a tool for me to see that you've actually watched this video and you actually listened. So this week I'm asking you just to check that you've actually watched this video, to go online and look up a show that started in this season and post the IMDb link to the show that you found or you watch or anything. Just the only thing I want is a show that started airing in the fall in 2019 2019, the fall of 2019. So post the IMDb link in the comments under this video. This is how I'm going to check that you watched this video and basically that you were present in class. So yeah, so that happens. Usually we see what shows are going to survive by the so-called mid-season period. Mid-season stretches from November, December till March, basically. Big name shows usually have a mid-season finale, which happens maybe in November, maybe in December. It's usually a bigger stakes episodes because they want to bring in as many people as they want, and they usually end with a cliffhanger. I'm sure that you know what a cliffhanger is, but anyway, a cliffhanger is an unresolved conflict. So the episodes ends with a situation which can go this way or another. For example, an explosion and somebody might die, but you don't know who, so you are compelled to come back when the next episode airs to see what happens. That's a cliffhanger. Some shows actually start in mid-season. For example, maybe a big because of course you have more weeks than you have episodes, so sometimes they do that you have a big 22 episode season of something. They air like 8 or 10 episodes in the fall, then they have a mid-season break, 2 or 3 month long mid-season break. During that break they air a shorter season of something, and then they come back with the big series. For example, in 2015, ABC still had Once Upon a Time, and they aired Once Upon a Time from September to December. They had like a Christmas break, and then in January, at the time slot of Once Upon a Time, they aired Galavant, which was a shorter season comedy show. By the way, I absolutely recommend Galavant, especially during these very bleak and depressing times. It's a fairy tale satire, basically 2 seasons, 18 episodes, totally watchable, super fun. It's a musical, songs written by Alan Menken, who did most of the Disney movie songs, so it's really great. And the first season is funny, kind of parodistic. The second season is complete craziness. It's amazing. Honestly, guys, totally watch it if you can. So that's how it works. There are also 2 periods in each season called the sweeps week. It happens in November and in February. And what happens here is basically that this is the time when advertisers pay an even closer attention to the ratings, how many viewers a show has, because they decide when what time slots to buy for advertisements. So this is the time when the networks try to bring up the viewer count. This is when they do these big events in the shows, basically. For example, when Castle was still on ABC, they always had a double episode storyline in February, in time for February sweeps, where of course the first episode ended with a cliffhanger, so you would come back for the second episode. So this is how they made sure that more people watched the show during that week. So this is how network television works. Once again, if I forget to say something, if you have any question, post in the comments, or we'll talk about it during the regular class hours. Cable TV works a little bit differently. What I want to talk about here is the so-called bundling. So what happens here basically is that a company usually owns more than one cable channel. Like you have HBO, but you have also HBO 2, HBO Family, stuff like that. Now, big name cable channels have always have a must-have show, basically. For HBO, it was Game of Thrones for a long time. For AMC, it's The Walking Dead. This is the one show that everybody wants to watch. So cable network providers, the companies that you actually buy your subscription from, they are hard pressed to have these channels that have the must-have shows to be able to offer these channels to their customers. But the companies who actually make the content, they are like, okay, so you want to have AMC. But we also have, okay, I don't know what other networks actually owned by the same one that owned by AMC, but if you want to offer your subscribers AMC, you also have to offer them like AMC2, AMC3. Those channels don't have good programming. They don't have a must-have TV show. People don't really care about them. But if you want to have AMC, you also have to pay for a whole bundle of channels that no one cares about. This is how you get all those Jockey TV and stuff like that in Hungarian cable channels that no one really cares about, but you have to pay for them because they are bundled together with networks that people actually care about. So this is how those who make the content, so the networks themselves, sell more and more product to the cable companies who then offer these to their customers. Once again, if you have any questions, ask. Don't be shy about that. Okay, I think I mentioned all of the stuff I wanted about television. If I didn't, it's going to be there in my glossary, along with stuff like what is a single camera show or a multi-camera show, what is a battle episode. I put a bunch of interesting stuff there about television and how American television works. Two more stuff, they are also in my glossary, but I wanted to talk a little bit about them, is the so-called monkey sphere and the echo chamber. These are both kind of psychological stuff and connected to media. The monkey's chamber is basically the monkey sphere. Sorry, I merged the two terms. So the monkey sphere. Basically, your mind is not built to bear all the stuff that's happening around us in the world. The monkey sphere encompasses all the stuff that we can actively care about. So what happens closer to us is something that touches us more deeply. So basically what the monkey sphere means, that let's say that there is a mass disaster on the other side of the world, and then there is a small car accident in your hometown. Of course, this disaster is going to have more victims and more damage than the single car crash. But the car crash is something that you know that is close to you, so you are going to care about that more. This is what is going to touch you more deeply. For example, right now with the coronavirus, up until it was happening in China, we didn't really care about that. This is also the monkey sphere. The echo chamber is a virtual place, not strictly digital, but a virtual place where basically you hear your own opinion back. Just for example, think about fandoms, fan communities, where, for example, or like a fan community, you enter a forum which is like a Star Wars fan forum, and you are going to hear this opinion that, oh my god, the last episode was so bad. You might have the same opinion, but you keep hearing, you say it to the void, and the void echoes it back. And actually, your opinion is going to radicalize over time. It's not just fan communities. For example, think Fox News, which is a very conservative news source in the US. And people who watch that are conservatives to begin with, but because they keep hearing this conservative worldview over and over again, they actually get more and more radical over time. So basically, that's how the echo chamber works. And I think that's all I wanted to say for today. So once again, if you have any questions, please comment, and I'm going to be here for a live chat on Tuesday morning. Please take part in the conversation. Please help me to build a dialogue. Please don't forget to comment with the TV show that started this year so I can see that you actually watched this video. And stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope that we can still meet in this semester. So thank you very much. See you next week.